Happy New Year. We're back with Facebook Live, and we're so happy to be back doing this again. And with this new year, people are talking about starting exercise routines. And a big thing, too, is financial health. I have been joking in my home that my credit cards are now going to be frozen in a block of ice after the holidays, and I'm only half joking. So people are starting to take a close look at their finances. So we thought we would talk about net worth.
Yep, that's usually a good starting point, I guess it is, as it is to financial health and looking at finances and new year, new you, kind of a good time to talk about that. And it is a very basic topic, kind of bringing it back to the beginning, but also a very important one. That's kind of the measure, I guess, or measuring stick, if you will, as far as financial health. If you don't have anything else, net worth is a really great place to kind of start looking at that.
Yeah.
So I guess the first defining question there is what is it? What is net worth? You know, there's I'm sure some of you that have heard that phrase, but haven't had a clear definition as to what that is. And it's pretty basic and almost self-explanatory, in that it is your financial worth. Obviously, there's so much more into a person's worth or value, and that's not what we're talking about today. We are strictly talking about the financial side of your net worth. We just heard recently that, what was it, last week, I think, that Elon is now the richest person in the world. Just
Elon
surpassed.
Musk, owner of Tesla.
Yep.
Or starter of Tesla. There are many owners now, but
yeah. That definition is his net worth. That's not saying that he has, billions of dollars in the bank, which he very likely does have lots of money in the bank, but it's his net worth in as far as what his individual person owns. So that's kind of the broad definition.
Yeah. But to find your net worth, which is a good starting point, you have to look at two baskets or buckets of your financial health. And one of them is your assets. What do you own? Do you own a home? Do you have a 401k? Do you have a savings account? Do you have other assets such as other real estate? What is it do you have that has monetary value that you could convert to dollars if they're not already in dollars? That is yours. And then that's the top part of a net worth calculation is what do you own? What that has value? So, for some people, what has value, there's a lot of emotional value with things, but we're just talking about what you could actually convert to dollars or sell. So, and then the other side, that's the top part of the equation. The bottom side, the second part of the equation, which you subtract from that, are your liabilities.
Your debts, right. Things that you not own, but you owe. These are the things that you owe. Money for whatever. That's the talking about owning a home. Do you have a mortgage on that home? That's a liability. Do you have a lien against your car? Those are some common terms that you'll hear. A mortgage or a lien, a credit card debt, any kind of debt as far as money that you owe to somebody else or some other institution is a liability, which is very common. That's the big equation are what you own, your assets, minus your liabilities. Very simple equation, not the easiest thing to come up with, but it boils down to being just that. Assets minus liabilities gives you your net worth.
Yeah, definitely. And sometimes it takes some time to dig all those things up if you are not used to tracking it or even tracking what you owe. And sometimes it's uncomfortable for people to track those numbers, and so they will just kind of not really ever add them all up. But so what are the outcomes or implications of what your net worth? So obviously, if you have a positive number minus something, you could end up with a negative answer, a negative net worth. And there's some implications to that. And they're not good. Really, I can't think of an instance where having a negative net worth is a positive in any way for someone. And I don't know, and even there, while as financial professionals and thinking that through, that's a true statement to say that a negative net worth is almost always bad. There's rarely a circumstance where it's good to have a negative. We would never encourage somebody to have a negative net worth. However, that being said, kind of two frames of thought there is it's also very common, especially earlier on in a career. And one of the biggest contributors to having a negative net worth is something like school loans, having school debt.
and credit cards. Those are two really big pieces that drive down a net worth for the reason that there's no value in those either. Right? When you have student debt, you have a degree, but you can't sell your degree. Unfortunately, you can sell your degree in the sense that you can sell your services, right? That you have value, you have a higher value because you have a degree. But in the debt itself, it's just a negative aspect to your net worth. So those are the kind of things that it maybe isn't a bad, inherently at face value, bad in the sense that the long-term view of a negative net worth, you can see a path in climbing out of that, right?
Yes.
That's a
Definitely.
financial plan and the importance of kind of financial planning and in that route. But something to seriously consider. One reason that and this is something that I've heard before that I thought was really beneficial is a proverb actually out of the Bible that says the rich rule over the poor and that the borrower is slave to the lender. That's something that years ago that I didn't fully understand. But if you think about that conceptually, that the borrower is slave to the lender, what that inherently means, and I really liked when kind of the light bulb went off in my mind, that I came out of school with a degree with student debt. That was a part of my history, and I don't mind sharing that with you guys. And in a realization that I'm kind of in a position that I essentially have to work because I owe people money. Put that verse and that proverb into a brand new light, that I wasn't as free to do, whatever it was that I wanted. Fortunately, I'm in a place now that I do love what I do. I do love my job. I love helping people with finances. But being in a place when you have a negative net worth, you're kind of forced into a position of I have to earn money because I owe other people money.
Yeah.
When I'm not in the traditional sense, I'm not a slave as what you might think of, slavery, which has totally, other implications. But in the sense that I'm kind of forced into working because I owe other people money is kind of, I think, where that verse is speaking.
Yeah, which is a great point. And you also, people in that position have less freedom with what they earn, not
Right.
just for less freedom in your career choices, but what you can do with those funds
And
that aren't going to pay debt.
Yeah. That too is kind of where I think that term comes from, financial freedom. How many times have you heard, reaching financial freedom or achieving financial freedom?
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
that's what it's speaking to.
Yeah.
You have the freedom to do what you want.
Yeah, you do. It really does open up a lot of possibilities in your life. But to Mike's point, and to emphasize it as well, especially when you're younger, you would expect to have a net worth in the beginning. So even though it's not a good thing, it's not insurmountable by any
Right.
means. And one reason you calculate this number is to start figure out how you get past it.
Yeah.
The flip side is you can also have a positive net worth. And hopefully as you go through your years, you will have a more increasingly positive number from that calculation. And it's very important to track that number over the years, because it is a measure, a barometer of your health, your financial health. But there's also, we often get this question of, well, how much do I have to have saved for me to retire? And there's no one number for
What a
that.
loaded question.
Yeah, isn't it though?
Yeah.
So it's not that you have to have a specific target, because everyone's lifestyle is different.
Yep.
And everyone's expectation both before and during retirement is different. Some people love to travel and some people love to camp. And international travel versus camping have very different financial implications, as well as many other choices you might make. So it is a good starting point to keep tracking and having increasingly positive net worth. You might reach your number much sooner than someone else who has a more expensive or extravagant lifestyle.
Yep.
Neither one is good or bad. It's really what you want to do with your resources. And that sort of feeds into why someone would have a financial plan, is because that's when you can figure out if that number supports what you want to do in your life.
Yeah.
Because money is really a tool. It's not a be-all, end-all. It's just what gets you where you want to go.
Yep.
So keep tracking that as you accumulate your assets over the years.
Yeah, and in that financial planning process, that's one of the first things that we're asking is, and kind of what we were saying there, that financial freedom gives you the freedom to do what you want to do. What is it that you want to do? You know, when somebody walks in the door that is not an existing client, our first question is not what is your net worth. It's what are you trying to achieve? You know, what are your goals? What are you trying to actually accomplish, and what brings you pleasure and happiness and net worth and finances is a very defined topic, but value and what's the other one? Wealth that's the term I was trying to say is what makes somebody wealthy is totally defined by the individual. There's not a word right.
What they find personal, emotional value in, not just things you can buy.
Yes, right. Yeah.
So we definitely encourage you to, in the new year, just start off there. It's not always a fun thing, but dig out your statements. Think about what those loans are, what credit cards you might have, what old 401k you might have. That would be an asset. All of those things, and pull them together. And I think it would be eye-opening for most people, not necessarily in a bad way, but could also be in a good way, especially when you find the old 401k you forgot about. So, we definitely encourage you to do that. And, as always, reach out to us with questions. And thanks for joining us.
Thanks.